In this week's video, we head out onto the Atlantic Ocean aboard a piece of living history. Traditional working boats that once carried turf, limestone, livestock and supplies across Galway Bay. We learn how these beautiful old boats are maintained and restored. We do a surprising amount of ducking for cover and somehow end up sailing alongside dolphins in the sunshine. So good afternoon. In the last video we were following the wild Atlantic Way in the search of that famous pirate queen, Grace O'Malley. We were following a trail, but that's brought us here now to Galway. Now Galway used to be a bustling medieval port back in the day where boats were coming and going from all the way across Europe, and actually here at the Spanish Ark they'd load and unload the boats. But most of the merchants would have passed through this. This is the Spanish Ark. I can't believe it's here, I'm touching it. And it's also the last remains of the ancient wall from Galway, the original walls from the 1500s. So it's actually amazing to be here. And I thought that whilst I was here in Galway, it'd be good to look up some hookers. Don't be rude, not that type, but some actual unique boats to this region, the Galway Hookers.
So we have here in Galway a big river running through the centre of Galway. It's called the Corrib River, River Corrib. It is fresh water and it is one of the fastest flowing rivers in Europe, and that fresh water meets the salt water of the bay. This is the entrance to Galway Bay, and across Galway Bay is County Clare, where you see the mountains over there. When the fresh water of the Corrib meets the salt water of the bay, the dolphins love that brackish water, so they're quite active during the summer season for that. Across the river is all the houses that you see over there. That's the village of the Claddagh. It's one of the oldest fishing villages in Ireland, dates back to the 5th century, and they all used to be thatched cottages there. So it's quite quaint and sweet.
So behind me is one of the Galway Hookers. So she's currently having her rigging fixed, and this is one of the smaller versions of the Galway Hookers. So there were 4 different categories. The smallest were the Púcáins. Then we've got the glow choke. That's a glow choke here behind me. Then we've got the limestone, which means half boat. It roughly translates to half boat. And then we've got the bod mór, bod being boat and mór meaning big. So the big boats. The big boats were mostly used for transportation, trade and for ferrying people. The limestone, also transportation, mostly of turf and livestock. And then these glow chokes, they were mostly used for fishing. Okay, so a fleet of about 200 of these would go out on Galway Bay and they would fish for the local herring. So what you can see here nicely is the sails have a pretty unique kind of browny, maroony colour, and they are those colours because they were coloured in a process known as barking. So there was a mixture of tree bark, tar and butter that was all mixed together and smeared onto the calico, which was the sailcloth, to preserve it. Because in the west of Ireland the weather conditions aren't great. Of course they're constantly getting wet out at sea, and then it wouldn't take long for the rot to set in. If it rots, it has to be replaced. Replacing calico was quite expensive, so they smeared that mixture on and that gave it the colours. But there was only one ship in the entire fleet that had the white sails, and that belonged to the King of the Claddagh.
It's the guy over there that Gabs is talking to in the red top. His name's Kieran, and a load of them got together. This is all volunteers to restore and carry on the tradition of the hookers.
I can't believe how beautiful these boats are once they've done them up. They're like hundreds of years old and they look amazing.
In front of the camera here, guys, so we've got the mast, or in Irish it's called an cron, and cron is the Irish word for tree. Okay? Hanging off of the cron, or off the mast, that is the gaff. So at the bottom of the gaff there, that's the throat. At the very top we've got the peak, and down there hidden by the sail, but there's another spar, and that's called the boom, because if you're not careful it goes boom. Okay? This spar here is called the bowsprit. Okay, so this is the bow and the bowsprit. It's just an extension which allows the jib sail to get out as far as possible. So that gives us an advantage whenever we're trying to turn. So when we're tacking, it helps the jib catches the wind, and that helps catch the boat in order to turn it about.
Because the young volunteers have just been helping out now to get their boat rigged up, they're taking them out for a quick short sail as a little bit of a reward.
I don't know how holy you are, but it doesn't really matter. You know, we're kind of just in the sign of the cross there, just kind of good luck, you know.
What I love about these is it's all ages involved. We've got lots of youngsters on there, training them up. And it's the same in the workshop. You might have your skilled joiners, but everyone's learning the trade, learning how to do them to keep these alive. Let's look at it down there. Amazing. It really is a thing of beauty. They've got no outboard on them, no motors, they're just sails. So they do use a rib. They have that to go alongside, because sometimes, especially here in the bay, you've got this raging river that's going in, strong winds, currents and stuff, so sometimes they need a little bit of help getting in or out. Imagine it, you know, back in the day, this whole harbour would be swarming with boats very similar to this. Can't believe how fast they go really fast. Mental. How amazing are these boats, and tomorrow we're going to be having a go on one.
As well as volunteering with the Galway Hooker Sailing Club, we've got the commercial branch of the Galway Hooker Sailing Club, which is Galway Bay Boat Tours. So essentially, whenever we book tours here and get a bit of revenue through the tours that we do, it goes right into the club, into helping restore the old Galway Hookers. We offer public tours, so if you are even travelling alone and you just want to join in, feel free to come down, just book with us online. Then there is the private tours, so if you just want the boat for yourself and your private little group, come along. We offer stag do's, hen parties, and then even burials at sea. All right, so it happens quite often that there are people who want to be laid to rest in the water. So once they're cremated, their ashes are left in little packages that are dissolvable, and we take them out onto the Galway Bay, and then family usually say a little prayer. They let them to water, and that's their final resting place then, to know that their ashes have been scattered in Galway Bay essentially.
So hiring this, even just for a couple of hours or a whole day, you're not only having a wonderful time, but you're also helping with the restoration, the preservation of a real piece of Galway maritime history. And you can't get much better than that, can you?
I am standing in front of one of the most famous boats in our fleet, and maybe even the most famous boat in Ireland. That is the Claddagh. So she was built in 1924 by John Francis Rainey, the local shipbuilder. And she featured in a very famous Irish soft drink commercial. You might have heard of it before. It's called Guinness. So it was in an advertisement around Christmas time, around 20 years ago. And even the locals that come to visit our workshop, they walk in and they recognise that boat immediately from that ad. So it's a real piece of history, and we're lucky enough to have her in our workshop and to restore her, bring her back to life. So these here are the ribs, and the job of the ribs, as well as the keel, is they basically function as the skeleton of the boat. And if you look up to the front of the boat there, it looks a lot like a rib cage, you know? So it is like the skeleton of the boat. It keeps the shape. Without them, the boat falls apart and we lose the shape forever. And that's what we want to avoid. So while restoring the boat, one rib comes out, gets traced, gets replaced individually, and as soon as that rib has been replaced, we work on the next one, and so on and so forth. It takes a long time, and it drives our boat builders crazy, but at the same time, it's the only way we can do it in order to keep the original shape. But this here, folks, this is called oakum, okay? And it's used for caulking. And caulking is the process of tapping oakum in between the planks. So these are large planks that are heated up, steamed, and then you can twist them into the shape that you want. They're clamped down, and as they cool off, they keep this shape. We place them on top of each other, but that alone wouldn't keep the water out. The caulking helps to seal it. Traditionally, there was tar smeared above it then as well. And then once the boat was placed in the water, the planks would soak up the water, swell, and then it would be watertight.
Not only is this place like a workshop, but also you can see all the history over here. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically the boats, they originated from Galway, Galway Hooker. A lot of them were built here in Claddagh and across the river then at John Francis Rainey's workshop. That's where the Galway Museum, the City Museum, is built right now. But Claddagh was the old fishing village here in Galway, so it was on the western side of the River Corrib. On the east side was Galway City, and traditionally when the Normans built the city, they built big city walls in which the Normans lived and the Irish on the west side of the river. Traditionally there was about 3,000 people living in the Claddagh, in about 468 cottages, about 500 odd families, and they lived exclusively almost from fishing, right? So they used the Galway hookers all to sail out onto the bay. They reserved the right to fish on that bay. If anybody else came onto the bay to fish, like large trawlers and so on, the Claddagh fishermen would actually head out, take their knives and start cutting their lines, cutting their ropes, right?
Brilliant.
They were very territorial people because the sea is what they lived from, to catch the local herring. And so the men would go out fishing, they'd bring the fish back home, the women would gut them, salt them, and then sell them at the fish market by Spanish Arch. Yeah, so the women were in charge of the money. They made sure that there was enough money for the food, all the bare necessities, but they also made sure that there was always a couple of pennies left for a bit of tobacco and for a drink.
Good morning. We're back here today because we're actually going to go on one of these hookers. I've sailed before, but you've never sailed before, have you?
No, and what a privilege and what a unique opportunity, and there's so much history involved in this. I'm so excited just to even sit alongside it. To be honest, I'll be chuffed. So yeah, what a good day.
So we're all geared up now, looking the part, looking like we know what we're doing. And we're going to go now on an actual piece of Galway maritime history. Wow. So Elizabeth, do you enjoy doing this?
I do very much. It's tradition. It's important to keep it alive. Honestly, it's just very special. You can't lose this, and it's such a peaceful sail because it's so quiet and you're just so close to nature.
Just one more Guinness.
Now, for those of us whose sailing experience mainly involves cruising from pub to pub and going up and down canal locks, there's a slightly bigger workout involved in getting one of these moving. So before we could head out onto Galway Bay, it was all hands on deck hauling the sails up. There's a lot of heaving and pulling, trying to stay balanced after a night on the Guinness, all while being battered by wind and waves, and me just hoping nobody realised I had absolutely no idea which rope I was supposed to be tugging. But once those huge red sails catch the wind, the whole boat suddenly comes alive. And then came the bit that we were warned about, the boom. Now, apparently, when the boat changes direction, or tacks, if you want the proper sailing term, that massive bit of wood swings across the boat at surprising speed. So every few minutes we were all ducking for cover to avoid either getting taken out by the boom or being slapped around the face by a giant floppy sail. But honestly, once we got into the bay in the sunshine with the wind in the sails and the boat cutting through the water, it was one of those moments where you can't stop grinning.
Kieran is my name, Kieran Oliver, originally from the Claddagh, a famous fishing village on the west coast of Ireland, across the river from Galway City. And our family have fished for hundreds of years, literally. So my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather and my great-grandfather and great-granduncle had a boat built in 1922 when they operated. It was a Galway Hooker, bigger than this one, actually a sister boat of it, actually. It was named the True Light, and they fished it for 40 years. So for us, this is kind of a little bit of a, well, it's keeping history alive and culture alive, and because it's part of our own DNA nearly, in a sense, we just like to share it with others and get more people out like yourself and Elizabeth and Pascal and Weaving and youngsters and
So Kieran, why are these boats so important then?
so the Galway Hookers and all the boats and the people around them helped shape Galway City and County for generations. It's important to keep them sailing. It's important. They need to be maintained and restored too in some cases or whatever. Just keep them going for the next generation. We have youth members and like Pascal behind me here and both our families actually kind of were from the sea, and worked at sea for many years. In fact, his grandfather owned the boat we're sailing on now, before a friend of ours bought it in 2009. And there's another story in that in itself.
It's the Loving, and my granddad and my dad used to sail it. It was sold in 2009, before I was born, and just flying it now.
Do you feel like a pirate, Heidi? Yeah, I feel like a right pirate. This sailing it's not as peaceful as you think, because we're grabbing ropes, we're moving about. Got to be quite agile. You don't want to get smacked in the head by that boom.
It's nice and shallow.
Okay. It's about that tack anyway. So these boats lean quite a lot, and you've got to remember, when I was following the Grace O'Malley story in last week's video, she would have had similar sized boats to this. Maybe the similar design, we're not sure, but there would have been small sailing boats, and she would have controlled quite a few of these on her waters.
So Galway Hookers Sailing Club, it's just about everything. It's not, despite what they say, it's not plain sailing really. But there's so many aspects of it. There's so many skills involved in building boats, in maintaining boats and sailing boats, and then teaching people how to sail boats and passing on these skills to the younger generation. So I'm not a boat builder. I come from a fishing family, so we didn't build boats, but I grew up alongside my father and my brothers, and we repaired our own boats, right? I'm not a boat builder. I didn't go to school to be a boat builder, but yet I took part in building this boat, and we're restoring another one. We restored this boat, the Loving, and we're restoring the Claddagh in the workshop there. So it's just, we're learning by doing, basically. Do you know what I mean? It's not something you can learn in school or whatever, I guess.
And your own workshops in restoration, you've got a couple of boat builders
we have
there.
two boat builders there, one from Nico from France, and we have Timo from Germany, and they joined us and they're employed full-time for the moment, and they're teaching and designing and teaching and passing on their skills as experts in the trade, I suppose, to younger generations and to our crew members, because as I say about the boats too, it's all well and good sailing them, but unfortunately we're going to bounce them off the wall maybe a bit, or they're going to get damaged, they're going to need repairs, and we have to be able to repair them, because otherwise they won't keep sailing. And it's the same going back generations, like fishermen from Claddagh, they repaired their own boats, they made their own sails. They might have farmed it out and maybe asked a boat builder, that was his skill. I want you to build me a boat, and I want it bigger than his and smaller than his and wider than him. I want to carry turf. I want to go fishing by day. I want a 4-day con so I can maybe do overnight trips or whatever it was. So there's different classes and different sizes of boats, and yeah, so it encompasses a lot of things, you know what I mean? And it's another kind of thing I say about boat builders, and it's actually I heard another term recently, but basically boat builders are a whole different level. a boat builder can be a carpenter, but a carpenter may not be a boat builder, you know, in terms of skills, because there's no angles, there's no drawings, you know, there's no right angles, no 45-degree angles, or nothing in a boat. It's all curves, and it's they're basically built by hand and by eye, you know, and they're still to that day. We're restoring them in exact same fashion. We have a couple of modern tools, measuring tapes and different things, and small power tools to make it a bit easier for us to maintain them now because they're available. But we're not doing anything different than our ancestors would have done when they built them. Back then they had no power tools. They had a chisel, a hammer, you know, and a piece of string, and they'd measure, you know, a rib on one side and a curve, and then they'd cut it with an axe or an adze. All we're doing really is just trying to do our best to keep the culture alive, pass on the skills to the younger generation. We have the workshop there, like I said, with classes and all that stuff, and a great facility supported by Galway Harbour and everything. You know, it's really nice to be able to do it. You know, the message we say to people is just look us up, you know, send us an email. You know, if you're visiting Galway, come down and have a look. You know what I mean? Galway is right in the middle of the Wild Atlantic Way. Galway city and county and the whole country really is. Tourism is a big part of it, you know. So, and these are kind of nearly, I suppose, attractions in the tourism sense too. You know what I mean? People like to know the story. You know, they like to hear the story. They like to see the boats up close. Maybe get a sail. You know, you have to earn it.
Yeah.
You have to earn it, yeah. So we have an unwritten rule here. Like the motto is, you got to roll up your sleeves. It's not just hop on, you got to earn your seat. Do you know what I mean? So whether that's sweeping the floor in the workshop, sanding, going off to get supplies, if we say go and get supplies, you know.
So these bits here, this is the ballast, and there's also ballast under here as well. These are the ribs. So we're not allowed to stand on them bits, those planks. We have to stand on the ribs to protect the wood. Don't we, Gabs?
Yeah, stand on these bits only.
So we've just got back off the boats now, picked little Bonnie up, but wow, that was just absolutely amazing. I'm absolutely buzzing, I'm exhilarated.
Yeah, I'm smiling from ear to ear. I've just had the best time, and what wonderful, kind and informational people that we've had on that boat. It's just been an experience that's just like, honestly, words can't describe it. It was brilliant. My first time sailing, and I think I spent 90% of it laying down, but wow. And then dolphins just come up alongside the boat, and then jumping in front of you. It was just beautiful. And the Galway Bay, when you come out and you're in the Atlantic, it is amazing.
Yeah, so we've gone from the canals to the Atlantic, and it's just, absolutely amazing. Anyway, we're going to head now, have a quick drink, and then we'll meet you back at the van, because we need to walk, Bonnie, and we just need to just sort of calm ourselves down a little
Chill
bit,
down a bit, maybe with a pint of Guinness, who knows?
Okay, yeah. So we're back in the van now. We've actually calmed ourselves down after an amazing day. So, I was going to say, whilst I'm pouring this, a huge thank you to this week's pirate crew, but I'm not sure if we'll get to the end of this bottle, will we? Ooh, look at that. Be careful though, I think they're a bit full. So we've had an amazing couple of days here in Galway, and the work that Kieran Oliver and the team do with the Galway Hookers Sailing Club is just, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, we should drink this to them for sure.
Yeah, definitely drinking it to them. And if anybody does find themselves in Galway, please go on their little trip boat, because all the proceeds from that little trip boat goes into the restoration of the hookers, the training of all the youngsters by the experts, the boat builders, and all that. It's all, I think it's such a really good cause. And I always try on my channel to promote like little small businesses and little charities, and this organisation is just, the work they do is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about keeping the heritage alive and keeping the history going, and that's really special and unique, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, cheers everyone. Sweat the lips, the top ones. Woohoo!
Cheers.
Anyway, we're going to be leaving here tomorrow because we're heading inland aboard a narrowboat. So yeah, we're going to be narrowboating in Ireland. So I really do hope you join us for that. But I am going to leave this video here. If you have enjoyed it, please do give us a big thumbs up. Really helps the channel. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And before I go, just a massive, huge thank you to my lovely, gorgeous patrons who have been so supportive with this adventure and my messages that I've got of them and everything. So thank you so much to my patrons. Anyway, please take care, stay safe, and I'll see you next week.